So as we reviewed yesterday, we created a new event or a new system that uses the seconds variable. So it's going to count down the seconds. We have 60 seconds and it counts down to 0. And we wanted to then also, when it gets to 0, if it's less than or equal to 0, okay, thank you, Trinity. That's fine. Like I said, there'll be this video here. So Trinity and Carol are having a little issue with their PCs. And we wanted to test to make sure it stops the game, it pauses the game, and then it restarts the level, which we did by this open level by name. Now, when we come over here and we test, we don't want to have to wait for a whole 60 seconds to see if our code is working. So a nice little shortcut is to just go to your variable and just change it to, let's say, we'll even just do 5 seconds. That way we don't have to work or we don't have to wait for the full timer that's going to be in our finish game to see if this works. And I'll jump, and there we saw I froze. Awesome. Okay, so I'll go back and change this. And likewise, and we've mentioned this before, instead of having to run all the way down the field to try to kick a soccer ball like that, we can go in our viewport here and let's just make another copy of this ball. And we can right click and say play from here. It's all the way at the bottom when you right click. I'll do that again because it's very helpful. Imagine being in a huge open world and you're on another side of the city when you start the game and you have to test something on the other part of the city. Doing a play from here is very helpful. So we'll do that again. And you can see now it just puts me right here in front of these soccer balls. And as we coded, when we kick it through, it says overlapped, which is what we wanted, right? Kick this one through, overlapped, and this one through, overlapped. That looks pretty good, right? So the ball goes in. Remember we did that collision box? But watch what happens when my player runs through it. So that's not good, right? We shouldn't score a goal when the player runs through, only the soccer ball. So that is the first thing we're going to work on for today's session. So I'll click stop and I'll close this down. We won't need this just yet. We're going to be back in our goal blueprint. So we're going to open up BP goal. Okay. As you recall, we have our 3D goal right here. We have this invisible box, which is our trigger. And then we have some code that says, okay, on this box, when something overlaps it, we want to print the word overlapped. The problem is anything that's overlapping it is going to do that. So we only want the soccer ball. And if you remember earlier, I think it was last week, we created our own BP soccer ball blueprint. So we want to say specifically only when this soccer ball overlaps that box do we want something to happen. So let's break this right here. And you can do that by holding down the control button and just clicking on the connector and then clicking in an open area. And we're going to use something called cast2. And this is a way for us to have one blueprint, in this case, the goal, communicate with another blueprint, which is going to be the soccer ball. And I've always thought cast wasn't a great word for this. I think of it more like connect. So when we say cast, we're kind of saying, let's connect to our soccer ball. So I'm going to type cast to, and I'm just going to type soccer, and it's going to start to limit things quite considerably. And there it is. So we don't want the mode or the class. We simply want the soccer ball. Okay. And let's hook this back up to our print string. And this still is close, but it wouldn't work because we need to say the other actor. Remember, our blueprints are actors in our scene. We have quite a few now. We have a soccer ball, that's an actor. We have some tables. We have some platforms that go up. Those are all actors. So we want to say when this actor, this soccer ball actor, overlaps with our box, let's print out the word overlapped. All right, and I'll compile that, save, and let's give it a shot. So again, let me go down here and I'll click play from here. And let me see if I can get one of these balls in here. Okay. Now let me see what happens if I run through. Did you see it stopped? So when I go through, it's not saying overlapped. Let's, just to be sure, let's do work with another soccer ball here. Kick that in there. Overlapped. Okay. So what we've done is to say we only want this to happen, and we're going to change this from just saying the word overlap to actually giving the player a goal. We only want it to happen when this soccer ball is the one that's overlapping with this box right here. That box. Okay. All right. Now the next thing we want to do is create a variable to track the score. And we're also going to do that in our goal blueprint. Already deleted that. Let me remove that. Okay. So let's go down here to variables and let's call this scores. This is how many goals we've scored. Okay, and that will be a float. Remember, a float is a number. And let's compile and save that. Okay. So now we have this variable down here, float, and later on we're going to want to connect this to our UI blueprint. Remember how here we connected our soccer blueprint to our goal blueprint. Later we're going to connect this to the interface blueprint. And so it is very important that we make this what we call a public variable. And you do that by clicking the eyeball or the eyelid. And this means it's available everywhere in the game. If it was not public, it's only available in this blueprint. And I know that's probably a little outside the scope of our class to talk about those things, but just for now, let's just make sure to click that eyeball right there. Okay, so let's do this. We don't need this anymore because we know this is working, so we can just click on that and delete. And then let's say, okay, on overlap with the soccer ball, the next step is to add to the score. So the first thing we'll do is we'll get the score, get the current score. And we set, or the default was set for us to be 0. So it's always going to start with 0. And then after this stuff here happens, our overlap, we're going to change the score. So let's drag this out again. And instead of setting, let's change this, or I'm sorry, instead of getting the score, let's change this to set the score. So we'll do that just like that. And so now we need to say, well, what should the score be, right? It just says, okay, we're going to set it to 0. So we're going to do some very simple math. We're going to take the current score. We're going to drag out this pin, and we'll just type add. You can also type plus, same thing. And we'll get this operators. Operators are plus, minus, divide, multiply. So we're going to say get the current score, add 1, and then this set score is going to be that. Any questions so far? So this is really, really straightforward stuff. When the ball overlaps with our box, we're going to get the current score and add 1 to it. So let's test that out. So remember, we can use print strings for debugs. It's that ugly blue text that's in the upper left, but it's very helpful for seeing if stuff works before you make it look pretty. So let's just do a print string. And instead of saying hello, we want it to tell us what the current scores is. So we'll do another get scores. We'll hook this up and it'll convert it from a number to readable text. All right. Just tidy this up a bit. Compile and save. And what I'm expecting to happen is that it's going to just show a bunch of zeros. Yep, that's perfect. That's what we wanted. And if I kick the ball in here, we should get it to 1. There we go. And this should make it turn into 2. Let's just make triple sure that running into the net doesn't give us a goal. Okay, great. And let's just do one more. That should turn our score to 3. Perfect. Okay, so now we are tracking the score. That is good. Okay, now let's do a little code cleanup, which I love to do. I love keeping all of these things really lined up, because sometimes I've seen people have stuff like this and just crazy, and you can't really tell what's what. So let's make sure our code is nice and readable. Okay. All right. And what I'm going to do is highlight that. I'm going to do C. I'm going to say ensure only the soccer ball causes the trigger overlap. And then in this comment box, I can change the color if I want to. So maybe I'll say that's that. It's really hard to see the different color. And maybe over here, I'll say, highlight this, and I'll do C for comment and say logic for keeping score. All right. Can I change that at all? Oh, doesn't work, huh? Okay, so, and the cool thing about this too is when you put them in these comment boxes, you can move them around and it'll automatically select everything. So that's just a nice way to keep all your stuff. You don't have to, but when your code starts to get big and big and big, it really does help you find some things. All right, so let's do one more thing. I did upload a sound onto our Slack channel, and I'm going to use that, and we're going to play a whistle sound. And let me change my share to also share sound. We're going to play a whistle sound when we score a goal. So I'll just go in my main content folder. I'm going to right click, import to current folder, And I'm going to use this whistle sound. Okay. So I'll go back here. And you know what? Maybe I'll just say from right here, drag out play sound 2D. That's almost always the one you're going to use. And then we can just go here and I can pick my whistle. That was kind of loud, wasn't it? And I'll do another. Say sound to play when scoring. Hopefully I typed that correctly. Yep. Okay. Awesome. Compile and save. And let's see if that worked. Okay. Go here, kick the ball in. Nice. All right. I think that's our first audio of the game. Did you guys hear that? Just give me a thumbs up in the chat because I know sometimes Zoom sometimes does and does not play other sounds. So hopefully you guys did hear the whistle sound. Okay. Perfect. All right. Thanks, gang. And let's see. Now we are going to let's review one more time. So what we've done tonight is we've said only play or only cause a event when it's the soccer ball. We added some very basic math to keep track of the score, and we added a sound to play. So again, keeping your code nice and clean like this, maybe you say, hey, I want to change that sound. I don't like the whistle. Where was that again? And instead of kind of digging through all these individual nodes, you can say, oh, here it is. It's right here, highlighted. Okay. So if you are working along, make sure you have everything saved up. Okay. And now we are going to go to that widget UI blueprint that we worked on yesterday. So mine is in my blueprints folder. It's called WBP for widget blueprint underscore UI. And you should have something that looks like this. Remember, this is our timer. And it's always good, and shame on me for not doing this, but to give these more meaningful labels. So I'm going to call this text timer. And then we're going to add another one, text, just common text, not any of the inputs or anything. And we're going to drag that kind of near the bottom here. And I'm going to name that to text score. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because we did go through this last time. I'm going to set the anchor to be the bottom here, and that will help me align it. And then I can just reset the offset, the position, the offset right, and the size. And actually, I don't know why that happened last night. It didn't go to 0. I'm going to change the font to 90 and going to drag this guy up just a little bit. I'm going to change the color. We'll do a nice fun light purple. And then I'm also going to center it. Compile and save. Let's just make sure it's looking good before we code it. Press play. All right, we got a nice big old text block. So now let's actually get it to bring in the right score. And there's a lot of different kinds of ways that you can do this. So the one I'm going to show you isn't necessarily the best way, but it does work. So what we're going to do, like we did last time, is we're going to make sure we have this selected. And we're going to bind this content, right? So right now it's just going to say whatever we say, like, hello there. But we want it to actually programmatically put a value in there. So we're going to create a bind. We'll create a binding. Okay, and that's going to put this in here. So over here is it's going to get that text label. And then we're going to do stuff right here. Right here is where we got to add. And then right here is going to change the value. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drag out a get all actors of class. Remember, actors are blueprints in our scene. And I want the blueprint that has the scores variable. So that would be not the soccer ball, not the table, but the BP goal blueprint. So there, I'm going to change that to BP goal. Okay. And I want to get the first one. And again, some of this might not make a lot of sense logically, but the more you practice it, the more you kind of understand. So we're going to drag out the out actors, and we're going to type get, oh, is it not behaving? Get copy. There we go. And then from here, we want to get the scores. So let's just type score. Oh, my computer's misbehaving a little bit. Score. No, not the set. Score. Sorry about that. It's having a little Unreal Engine hiccup. So we want to get the score, okay? And just like with our print screen, we're going to hook this up to that, and it's automatically going to convert it to text for us right here. So it's a nice little that we don't have to do. Okay, clean everything up a little bit here. And let's compile and save. And let's do another test. Okay, so far so good. It's at least 0, right? Instead of just saying text block. So let's see. Kick this in here. Okay, there's 1. There's 2. And there's 3. Awesome. And let's just go triple check that our in-game stuff still works. So I'm just going to wait for this to count down to 0. That all looks good. And I'm going to jump on this thing. What should happen is when it gets to 0, the game should pause. And it does. And we start back. And it restarts at 0, very important. And it restarts the clock at 60. So sweet. Everything is working just nicely. So the last thing for this session is let's do a little code cleanup. We've got all of this is working perfectly. Even when we restart the game, it restarts. This right here, the scores and the print string, just again, what this is this stuff over here. And we don't need that anymore because we have this nice, beautiful one down here. So let's just go ahead and get rid of that one. Hit delete, compile, save. This is looking good. and we'll do a save all, and that will wrap it up for today. Does anybody have any questions about anything that we've covered today or anything this week?
So I have a question about
Hmm.
Shadow PC because I was finally able to get it open yesterday and I was
Hmm.
able to see my project. But then today, I opened it again. Like I struggled a lot to get it open, and then I finally opened it and it made me start like over completely, even though I logged into my own account. So I wanted to ask where I remember you said you had a project that we could copy down, which was
Hmm.
everything we had done previously. I wanted to ask
Hmm.
where I could find that so I don't have to start over.
Okay. Um, is anybody else having a problem with saving their project in Shadow?
I'm just having a hard time finding the file that the same
Okay.
thing with Carol.
Okay.
But I was able to sign in and everything.
Okay. So here's what we'll do. I will post this project here that I have on, I'll put it on Slack. And when you save your projects, make sure that you save them in your Google Drive, just to be sure. Okay, so let's do that. Let's see if that makes things a little bit better. And we will wrap it up here, and I'll see everybody for one more session before the holiday weekend.
I was wondering if you could just like upload the file from like the soccer ball from last week because that was the only thing I wasn't able to upload. Everything else was working fine though.
Okay,
Like
do you still have your project?
yeah,
Okay,
everything loaded for me.
so do you just want the soccer ball model or the soccer ball blueprint?
Um, the blueprint.
Okay, okay, yeah, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you are welcome. Any other questions? Anybody else?
I also just
Hmm.
wanted to say that I've been trying to do the Google Drive thing,
Hmm.
but for some reason today Slack gave me something like a error. It says, I don't know, it says since 20 June 2025 at 8:30 you might experience degraded performances or issues due to an ongoing incident. We're actively working towards a resolution at the soonest possible time. Thank you for your patience and understanding. But I'm going to do the Google Drive thing
Hmm.
when it works because I think it's gonna work tomorrow because it said it's gonna have maintenance or
Okay,
whatever.
okay,
So yeah.
sure. Okay. Well, let me ask you guys this. Are you still working from home or are you at the Expo Center?
I'm
Um,
working from
oh,
home on
Okay.
my personal Mac.
I also just started working on my personal computer because on the Expo one it just like wasn't working either.
Yeah.
But Shadow PC, when I open it on my computer, I was like showing Trinity today, it
Hmm.
either like makes my screen glitch or it stays open, but the letters are like super blurry to the point where like I can't really do anything because I can't like see anything. So I don't
Okay.
really know how to
Yeah,
fix that.
Shadow PC just doesn't like work at all on my MacBook, so I just had to use like the Unreal Engine like on its own.
Okay.
Like
How's that
after
working?
it works fine.
Okay. So for the blurriness, that could be when you open Shadow PC, um, there should be like some settings where you can adjust the graphics quality, but also more important, the scaling. So if you want, we could, let's see, if you want to send me a screenshot of what it looks like, just do a print screen or whatever screenshot software you use, and let me take a look at it, and I might be able to troubleshoot it a little bit further. All right. Anything else?
No, thank you.
All right. Thanks, gang. Happy
Thank
Wednesday.
you.
Yep, and I'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye, thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
I think we can find you.